can I keep from singing? I think the message of this song is so appropriate to where we are in the world today. We join together to remind one another that we are not alone in facing the world's troubles. We join to remind one another to keep on singing, though we may be surrounded by the tyrant's acts. And as we join in this spirit of we each, both things sitting heavy on our hearts and things that make us want to leap with joy. So we take a few minutes each Sunday afternoon to share some of those with one another, knowing that as we share our heartaches, we feel a little more held in love. And as we share our joys, it is an act of resistance that lifts us all. So if you have a joy or a sorrow that you need held in love in this community this afternoon, I would invite you to say your name, your pronouns, and briefly share that joy or sorrow. And after each person shares, we will respond all together with, "We hold you in love." What joys and sorrows are we bringing to this space today?
I'm Marie, she, her, and and Bruce, we are happy that some friends are here from South Carolina. They were members, or Leslie was a member here for about 10 years or more, they stayed with us last night. They're going to be up in Duluth and along the North Shore, and they're really happy to be here because it's even hotter in South Carolina than it is here in Minnesota. So they're on their way right now, and they'll be back, and they'll be at church next week. And they'll be at the party, so.
We hold you in love. I'm Kevin, he, him. We were at the doctor for about 3 hours on Friday with my father-in-law on his 99th birthday. But we discussed that he's now hospice eligible. He's got another bladder infection, and we're going to use antibiotics this time to see how much rebound he can get. But if there's not much and the decline sustains, we're going to start hospice. Throughout all that conversation with the doctor, Jeff was in the room with us, and yet that night I realized he didn't quite understand all the implications of that. So it was an intimate time, and we're preparing, but this time feels a little closer to the end.
I'm David, he, him. I have two things I'll share quickly. Sort of joyful concerns, both of them. Was in Michigan City, Indiana last weekend to get my dad and me and Margaret to a family reunion. Super excited my dad was to be there. It was the 90th reunion. He is 88, so he has been to almost every one of those Fisher family reunions. I was relieved that he agreed to go in a wheelchair rather than try to use his walker. Sadly, while people were tossing eggs on the outside lawn, my dad wanted to go outside and watch them, and he did it by himself. He was on a little bit of an incline. The wheelchair started to gain momentum, and he used his right leg as an emergency brake and wound up in sort of a classic NFL injury, overextending his right knee. And so now he can't even walk slowly. He can stand and pivot, and I hope for him like a speedy recovery, and that he gets back to where he used to be, which was walking with difficulty as opposed to not walking at all. And the sort of joyful concern for me on my cancer journey, I am still learning a lot. I have 2 important doctor's appointments this week with new doctors that I'm hoping will give me wisdom and empathy and ideas on what my next move will be. And so I certainly appreciate you sending good energy to me and my doctors this week.
I just want to say congratulations to Wendy, she, her. I just want to say congratulations to Embry. She passed her driving test this last week, and she's looking at getting a car.
Yeah. I'm Margaret, she, her pronouns. I'm not a regular member here, but I am here with David today. And I just wanted to share a joy that our almost 9-year-old grandson just yesterday had an opportunity to perform with his traditional Mexican dance group, Minnesota Orchestra, at Orchestra Hall. And it was just a family-friendly 1-hour concert, but his their dance troupe was the only one that that the entire concert to a particular song that was obviously of Mexican origin. So it was really fun, and he was so proud. As was I.
We hold you in love.
I think I better. I've been having difficulties physically and emotionally. And so we were up north at Camp Unistar for a week. And we had a program that was yoga. And the first part of the yoga was 1 hour, and they did all of this stuff, including people were standing there on one leg with the other leg parked on their thigh. And I don't know how they did that, but they obviously didn't start last week. So anyhow, I tried to keep up, and then by the time the hour was done, I was done. I headed for my bed. So anyhow, I ended up with a really sore hip, and I've had arthritis in the hip for a long time, but now it really reacted, and so that made for a difficult rest of the week in the last few days. Thanks to Jamie, I'm going to be starting physical therapy at the same clinic that she's gone to, and they put a whole bunch of dates on the calendar for me, but the first one was like 5 days out. And so I said, well, is there something I can do to start to gradually get in shape? And she said, well, walking is good. And I said, no, the desk lady, so she's not a doctor, but she said walking is good. And I said, well, I've got an elliptical machine. I said, that's walking, right? And she says, yeah, that's walking. So anyhow, I've had a couple of walking sessions, and amazingly, you know, one of the most disconcerting parts of my hip was that, especially going up or downstairs, it would give me this feeling like it was going to collapse. So, you know, I'm really holding on to the cane and the banister and everything else. And so anyhow, after 2 times of doing my walking exercises, it's not threatening to collapse anymore. It still hurts. It doesn't like this idea, but at least it's hanging in there doing its job. So that was one thing. And then like David, I've got prostate cancer, a Gleason 9, and it's been a huge battle, and I managed to get arrangement to do 5 treatments of radiation treatments called SBRT, which are supposed to be really excellent. And I had 4 metastases in my abdomen that they were focusing on. So after the tests were over, it's been a month and I haven't heard anything from the doctor. And you know, they didn't prepare me very good. You know, I went in and had a PSA reading, and it had come down some, but not nearly as much as I thought it was gonna. So I was really discouraged. It went from 4 to 3, and I was hoping like 1 or less. So anyhow, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's not working. This cancer's gonna be able to beat the radiation, right? And so anyhow, I did more reading, and I discovered that counterintuitively, even though it's a very high-strength radiation that supposedly immediately kills the cancer, it takes a long time for the PSA to come down. Up to 30 months, they said. Yeah, and so the long story short is that from going from 4 till 3.17 is actually pretty good. So I can't complain too much. Everything is working out, but it's tough.
Anyone else? Well, we know that even though we speak some of our joys and sorrows aloud, so many others remain held in our hearts, in our bodies, in our minds. But even though they are unspoken and perhaps unknown to anyone but ourselves, this community still holds each of us in all of who we are and all of what we are experiencing in our lives. So let us say once more, all together, for all of those unspoken joys and sorrows, we hold you in love. As I mentioned at the beginning of our service, today is going to look a little bit different. So I don't have a full sermon or even a homily, but I want to kind of describe a spiritual practice and invite you all into trying it out and seeing what it feels like for you. So this is not a formal spiritual practice, and that it isn't exactly the way that any other particular group practices it, but it's based off of a number of different kinds of practice. So how many of you have ever heard of Lectio Divina before? Of what? Yeah, that's what my spouse said too. Lectio Divina. No. Oh, okay, we're going to have fun today. How many of you have heard of Taizé? Taizé. Who? Okay. Taizé? No? Oh, good. Taizé. So I'll give a little more background than I was planning on because I'm excited that some of you haven't heard of these. So Lectio Divina is a practice of divine reading. I will say I strung together a bunch of words trying to explain this to my spouse, and his response was, I understand all of the words you're saying, but not what they mean when you put them together. So know that you are not alone if this is a new concept. The idea behind Lectio Divina is to engage with a scripture, and this comes from the Christian tradition, so in most cases it is from the Bible. However, the practice can be done with any scripture or any writing. The idea is you are reading the text not for understanding, but for how it speaks to your spirit. For what message may be coming through the text, or how it is bringing up emotions in you. Now, for some people, this may be an understanding of how God or Spirit is wanting to communicate with you in this particular moment. For others, we frame it as more letting our unconscious speak to our conscious. There's a lot of different ways to understand Lectio Divina and how it is trying to be present in your life. But it's very different than most of us who have been taught critical thinking, right? And reading to understand what's the history behind something, what's the context of the story, what's the underlying moral message of the story that's being told. This is very different than that. This is listening for a word or a phrase or a feeling that comes through the text. And in Lectio Divina, you will read the text multiple times, over and over again, letting it sink in and letting yourself be present to it. Sometimes this means you wander away on a side quest for a moment as something catches your attention, and then you come back to the text again and see what else is coming out. Taizé has a similar feel to it. It is more of a musical and silence practice, where there's specific music written, and this is based from a monastic community in France, where their services consist completely of these repetitive songs that are spiritual in nature, but they're meant to let you sink into the experience of the music. Songs over and over and over again, and then sitting with it in the silence. Now, as I said today, we're not doing either of these formal practices, but what I want to invite us to do is to try on this lens of approaching material, right? So the idea is to work through our logic brain and switch over to our intuitive and creative side. And as I said, for some of us, this may mean letting spirit move in our lives, understanding or looking through a lens of love. And for others, it may be more psychological. What is my unconscious saying about the things that I'm experiencing, but may not be processing at a conscious level? How does the text or the song bubble up in me? I was going to read details, but we don't need to do that right now. And this is a fantastic book if you are curious about learning more about different ways of approaching spirit. It's by one of my colleagues, John Johnstone, called Scripture Unbound. We have it downstairs. I am myself making my way through it right now. But it talks about all the different ways that we can approach scripture and writings and song as well. So the piece that I have chosen for us to focus on this morning is a song that many of us are very familiar with, called Blue Boat Home. And part of what sparked it is it was recently turned into a book. So we have some visual stimulation and a new way of reading it as well. As we do this practice, some of you may want to take notes or draw or scribble There is paper and pencils in here in person. If you are online, I invite you to run around your house and find whatever things might be helpful for you in capturing some of what comes up. So I'm going to read the book. You're welcome now to hop up and grab stuff. I'm also going to hand out a sheet with questions and the words after I read the book. So you can just focus on hearing the words first and then seeing them. And we'll go back and forth with this practice of experiencing this piece in multiple different ways. After the first two ways of experiencing it, I'll invite us into small group conversation, where if you are willing and interested in sharing what's come up for you, we'll take a few minutes to do that. Then we'll go back into the meditative practice of experiencing this piece in other ways, and then back into sharing in small groups, and then a little bit of process at the end of what the experience as a whole was like for you. Any questions before we get started? It might feel a little uncomfortable. It might feel a little awkward. You might find some irritation coming up, or you might find yourself getting distracted or thinking, why are we doing this over and over, or starting to go through your grocery list. All of that is okay. Try to be gentle and bring yourself back into the moment, into the music and into the words, and into your own body and experience. All right. I do. That would be great. Thank you, Kevin. Blue Boat Home. Yes. Feel free. Grab. I'll give you all a minute for anyone who wants to grab paper and pencils. And a book. Yeah. And I'll get my spot pulled out. Margaret, do you want a book to write on? Or are you okay? And if at any time you need more paper or you change your mind and you want to grab some or more pencils, please feel free to move around, even if we're in the middle of a reading or a listening. All right. The words of Peter Mayer. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel. And the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sky, starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred's pilgrim souls. making our way by the light of the heavens. In our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks for the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky, my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my beautiful blue boat home.
Low below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, and still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, and never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The sun is my sail, as the moon is my rudder, as I ply these starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, sailing here with my ship's companion.